Alright, so we're going to do a different thing today. Recently I've been building a new Zur the Enchanter EDH deck. For those who don't know what EDH is, it's Commander. As in, you build a 100 card deck where each card aside from basic lands must have a unique name. Actually, it's 99 cards plus your general, which I picked Zur. Whenever he attacks, you search your library for an enchantment with converted mana cost 3 or less and you put it on the battlefield. And of course, I tried to make my deck work around this, finding whichever good enchantments I could, and well, Zur's colors, white, blue, and black. I decided to go for a very creature-centric aggro deck. And here's what I have so far. Well, Zur is a creature. And then we have Soltari Monk. Bunch of these creatures are there just so they could have evasion. I was searching high and low for creatures with great evasion and that could deal at least 2 damage with the converted mana cost equal to how much damage they could deal a turn. So for example, I'm looking for, let's say if a creature has a converted mana cost of 2, if it has good evasion, I want to also be able to deal at least 2 damage a turn. That is, assuming it keeps going unblocked each turn and doesn't get killed. Cloudfin Raptor can evolve, but he usually won't evolve past the 2-3. I think the biggest he could get is a 3-4, considering Zur comes out when it's a 2-3. I don't think Cloudfin Raptor will be becoming any bigger than 3-4 with its evolve ability. Dauthi Slayer, yet another of these creatures with insane evasion, some of which can't even block. Yeah, to get this nice evasion with great offense, sometimes I have to sacrifice defense. Like this guy. Creatures with shadow that could attack but can't be blocked, they can't block either. For example, they can only be blocked or block other creatures with shadow, but those are few and far in between. So most of the time, this guy won't be blockable, but you can't use him to block either, even if you're about to die. Welkin Tern, similar story, but yeah, it can only block other flyers. Stormfront Pegasus, because yeah, it fits the criteria. It has a form of evasion, it costs 2 to play, and it could do at least 2 damage a turn if it doesn't get killed or blocked. Now here's a really interesting one. Stormscape Familiar. Whilst it doesn't meet the criteria of getting 2 damage done and having converted mana cost 2, it's got a pretty neat ability making your white and black spells cost 1 less to play. So some of your evasion creatures that you'd normally cost 2 would cost 1, and this pretty much involves every white and black spell. Even Zur. You could get Zur out on turn 3 with this thing. Turn 1 land, turn 2 land that doesn't come in tapped, Stormscape, and then turn 3 Zur. Just need to make sure the last 2 lands don't come in tapped, otherwise that won't work. Latch Seeker, you can't block him at all. 3-1 for 3. Yeah, you get the whole idea here. Daring Skyjek. I don't think a lot of people will be playing it, but hey. Tidehollow Sculler is just an all-around good card. Doesn't have that form of evasion I was looking for, but it can take out someone's pretty good card from their hand. That is, if you need to do so. I'm going to be writing the deck list down in the description, so don't worry. Banisher Priest. While that's out, I can exile any creature that's not mine, which would be particularly helpful. Kor Aeronaut, a 2-2 flyer for 2. And the ability really doesn't matter much, because most of my creatures have good evasion anyway. Skulking Ghost. A 2-1 flyer for 2 that, if it's targeted by a spell or ability, sacrifice it. Hypnotic Specter. Whilst it's not a 3x, but while it costs 3, still, whenever it does hit the opponent, which is pretty likely because this thing has flying, they discard a card at random. So yeah, there's some nice disruption. Skywinder Drake. 3-1 for 3 that could only block other flyers, but it flies, so yeah, taking it. Stinkweed Imp. Flying in. Whilst the ability that causes it to destroy a creature whenever it deals damage is called Death Touch, here, it's not keyworded as Death Touch. Maybe Death Touch has something to do with all types of damage, while this is just combat damage, but still. Stinkweed Imp could just take out a whole bunch of creatures, and a Dredge 5 if you ever want to get it back. So yeah, this could be a pretty handy card, though it won't be doing as much damage as I was hoping it would do. Yet another card that doesn't do as much damage as I want it to do, but still. Warden of Evos that flies, and creature spells with flying you cast cost 1 less to cast, so yeah, you get the idea there. Make my flyers easier to play. Soltari Trooper, another of these shadow cards. Signal Pest, with Battle Cry and good evasion, yeah. Making all your other creatures have +1/+0 when they attack, if this can attack. And that's why I have that there. And this is just an all-around good card, Vampire Nighthawk. Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink on a 2/3 for 3. Do I need to say any more? Now this card should be in every white deck, I think. Mother of Runes. Giving a creature of your choice protection from whatever color you want. It being your commander, so they can't block him. Could be your commander, so he can't be targeted by various kill spells. It could be, well, pretty much anything. Yeah, this card is very helpful. It only costs 1, so it's easy to play. Duskhunter Bat. The 2/2 for 2, but the only downside is you need to hit the opponent first. Otherwise it'll just be a 1/1. Not too terrible, but still. Dauthi Horror. This is awesome. 2/1 for 2 that it's almost completely unblockable, unless if in the off chance someone happens to have a shadow creature that isn't white, but he won't be blocking most of the time either. That's the sacrifice I'm willing to make for a deck like this to work. Azorius First-Wing, 2/2 for 2, the 2 mana being of different colors. And there's the evasion again. Leonin Skyhunter, 2/2 for 2 with flying. Yep, you're going to see a lot of this. Lyev Skyknight, a 3/1 for 3 with flying and detain when it comes in the battlefield, but it's mostly the flying that made me want to use this. And finally, the last creature aside from spells that make tokens, manlands, or whatever, it's Gossamer Phantasm, the time-shifted Skulking Ghost. 2/1 for 2 with flying, and whenever it's targeted by a spell or ability, sacrifice it, just like Skulking Ghost, but this one is blue. Not a big difference. Now we're going to get into the rest of the spells, and then after that it's lands. Instants, we have Counterspell, counter target spell for 2, exactly what it says on the tin. Spell Pierce, this is a pretty versatile one. Much of these counterspells here, well, of the few that I do have, they cost 1. And it's pretty easy to actually cast them off. Early in the game, if it's a fast game, then these things will be pretty good, but in slower games, not so much. This deck is made for dual commander games, as in 2 players, so yeah, games are going to be generally faster there, making these soft counters so much better. If it would be a slower game with multiple players, I'd probably not considering running any soft counters, but in a 2-player game, yes, do run them. Spell Snare, counter target spell with converted mana cost 2 for 1. There's so many threats I can name that this can stop. Arcbound Ravager, Dark Confident, Tarmogoyf, Go for the Throat, Doomblade if people play that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you could stop with this. Other counter spells like Negate. Counters any non-creature spell for 1 and a blue, so yeah, that's pretty handy. Force Spike, a lot more powerful than, well, let's make a new stack because it's getting kind of hard to read the cards. Force Spike. A 1-drop counterspell that can pretty much counter out any spell, but if someone has 1 mana, this doesn't work. But in a fast enough game, this should work. That's why Daze is so good. It can really catch people off guard, but I don't have enough islands to make that work. Mana Leak. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3 for 2. Very good card. Very popular in Dual Commander. All kinds of these counter spell strategies are very popular in Dual Commander, actually. Just counter target countering people's spells with control decks, and yeah, that's pretty much one popular way to win. Now it's instant removal. Swords to Plowshares, one of the most popular cards in, well, Commander. Costs you 1 white and exiles any creature. Sounds like a great deal, except the controller gains life points equal to that creature's power, but still, it is still a very good deal. Kill any non-artifact creature for 2 with Go for the Throat. Definitely. Mortify. What if you need to kill an enchantment? Do so with this. Costs 3, but hey. Recently been bumped up to uncommon. Doomblade. 1 in a black to kill any non-black creature. Now here's a really versatile piece of removal. Dismember. Even for 1 you could use it. You just need to pay 4 life, but the only life point that matters in these sorts of aggro decks is your last. It'll kill most creatures since it gives the thing -5/-5. Now some tutors. Some less known tutors that still could do a nice job in the deck if I get lucky enough. If they don't backfire. Tainted Pact. Lets you tutor up a card, but you gotta remove from play all the other cards that are above it, but you have to stop tutoring if you hit 2 cards with the same name. This is much better in EDH than in any other format. Well, much better if you run many colored, like 3+ color decks that don't use much basic lands, but try and find as many lands as possible that have unique names. I may even try and use Tolaria, as useless as that is, aside from just producing the generic blue and coming in untapped. Just so Tainted Pact would work a bit better. And here's the riskiest card of all. Yep, Demonic Consultation. Costs 1 black mana and lets you tutor up any card. Yes, you do have to remove all cards above it, but you have no control over where the 1 card you want is. You can stop at any time with Tainted Pact, but with this you can't. And if the card you want is within the first 6 cards that you remove, you lose the game because it's not going to show up anywhere else, unless it's a basic land, but would you really tutor that up unless you're desperate for mana? Now some sorcery discard. We have Him to Turok. They discard 2 cards at random for 2. Yeah, another really popular card. Another one, Duress. Not as good as Thoughtseize, but it doesn't have the $70 price tag, and I can do with certain creatures. It's just there's all these other versatile spells that could just screw over your game plan. Like, a tutor would be nice to get rid of. You can get rid of someone's removal spell. Yeah, this is still very, very good. A very good common at that. Another less known tutor, but still, I'm going to live with it. Diabolic Intent, which I got in a trade. It's demonic tutor, but you have to sacrifice a creature. Same mana cost, same ability to get a card, but sacrifice a creature. Costs 2, by the way. Diabolic Tutor. The less overpowered version of Demonic Tutor. Costs 4, but you get any card. Still fairly good, I guess. Though I'm pretty sure most people wouldn't run it, because they could just get Demonic Tutor. Beseech the Queen. Another fairly unknown tutor. This one's in foil, but hey, does it matter? Okay, you can tutor up any card that has converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control, but with this sort of deck I'm running right here, the mana curve is pretty low, so not like it would matter anyway about the whole lands drawback. Not like you're going to tutor up something big. Yeah, the more black mana you can get, the easier it will be to cast this thing, because its converted mana cost is 6, which could screw you over with the Dark Tutelage, but you could spend as little as 3 if you have 3 black mana. Yes, it's using those colorless black hybrid mana symbols from the Eventide Shadowmoor block. I think Shadowmoor was probably the only set to use them. I don't know if Eventide may have used those mana symbols too. And then there's our token generator, Lingering Souls. It's just, this thing has 4 tokens in it. The first time, you gotta spend 2 in a white, and the second time it's 1 in a black. Unless if someone happens to exile this from your graveyard right away, then you only get to cast it once. And the 2 spirits you do get from it, they're only 1/1, but they can fly, so yeah, that's good. Enchantments. Particularly ones that remove creatures from the game, destroy them, or just stop them in their tracks. Well, not their abilities, but hey. Detention Sphere is a pretty good one. Exile target non-land permanent while this is out. Costs 3. And every other permanent with the same name, but not like that's going to come in handy since, well, it's a singleton format EDH. Runner's Bane is a very odd choice. It pretty much keeps a tapped creature with power 3 or less tapped down for 2. But I don't see many people who are going to run this over any other enchantment, but there's still surprisingly a good amount of creatures with power 3 or less that could actually do some harm. Arrest. Just because these are enchantments, I choose to run them. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated, and it costs 3. Seal of Doom. Kill a non-black creature for 3 in enchantment form. Pacifism. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. Costs 2. And yes, same art again? I question. Because seriously, since 8th edition, which is 2003, Pacifism has had the same art and flavor text. No kidding. Journey to Nowhere, even better than Pacifism. It's like Oblivion Ring and Detention Sphere, but it can only hit creatures, and it costs 2. The monocolored Detention Sphere that doesn't exile every permanent of the same name, but still, not like that's much of a difference since it's a singleton format, as I said earlier. Now, card advantage, to keep constant pressure. There's Dark Tutelage, variable life loss, but an extra card each turn for 3. But that's definitely worth running since this is a low mana curve deck. Underworld Connections, you do have to keep a land tapped down, unlike Phyrexian Arena. Pay 1 life to draw a card for the same mana cost as Phyrexian Arena. The 1 and the 2 black, that being 3. And then there's just some protection. Robe of Mirrors, which I'm going to probably get upgraded to Diplomatic Immunity, giving the creature Shroud, most likely Zur. And then here's probably the most expensive card of the deck. Bitter Blossom. Once a turn, you lose 1 life and get a 1/1 Flying Fairy Rogue. It flies, and it happens once a turn, and the life loss really doesn't matter much, considering you start with 30 life instead of 20. Well, 40 in a multiplayer commander game, 30 in dual commander games. And then we have some anthems, just boost up creatures. Bad Moon, black creatures get +1/+1 for 2. Another for 2 card, giving white creatures you control +1/+1. Here's one for 3 that gives your creatures +1/+1. Actually, Bad Moon are the pure and glorious anthem. And then Favorable Winds, the uncommon one. Gives your flyers +1/+1 for, well, 2. And here's a really broken card that wasn't so broken considering some of the previous versions of it. The previous versions of Skull Clamp weren't so broken, but they seemed much better. It seemed like a disadvantage to give your creatures +1/-1 as opposed to +1/+2 or +1/+1, but then people realized how horribly broken it was. In a deck full of X1 creatures or token generators that would most likely generate X1s, you could pretty much trade them off for 1 mana and get 2 cards from it. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. It costs 1 to put on the field and 1 to equip. So yeah, it's easy to put on the field, and you could just spend 1 mana and sacrifice one of your X1s to draw 2 cards. Yep, this is something going horribly right. And then some protection for most likely Zur. We have Lightning Greaves, Hastened Shroud, costs 2 to put on the field, 0 to equip, and Swiftfoot Boots, 2 to put on the field, 1 to equip, Hexproof and Haste, it's similar enough. And then land. Ancient Ziggurat, Rainbow Land that only works for creature spells. Gemstone Mine, Rainbow Land that only works 3 times. Evolving Wilds, get out any land of your color of your choice, but it comes in tapped and you can't change your choice. Vivid Meadow, produces white, comes in tapped, and it can be a rainbow land, but only twice. Fairy Conclave comes in tapped, and it's a man land for 2. It can become a 2/1 flying fairy. Adarkar Wastes, taps for 2 colors, doesn't come in tapped, but if you do choose to tap it for one of the colors, you lose 1 life, but still, not much. Might as well make a new pile. Tarnished Citadel. If we can get close enough, you can see that it's in German. Yes, this is how I got the card in the trade. It was German. But I still understand what it does. It could be tapped for 1 colorless, or 1 of any color, but you lose 3 life, and it doesn't come into play tapped. Yeah, 3's a lot. Azorius Chancery. A really risky land to run, but still very good. It can tap for 2 colors at the same time, so this coupled with a swamp means you'll have all 3 colors you need. Except if someone decides to take a wasteland or a strip mine to this, you're pretty much screwed, because that's 2 lands you'd be losing, not just 1. Orzhov Guildgate comes in tapped, tap for a white and a black. Azorius Guildgate, same deal as the Orzhov Guildgate, but it's white and blue. Exotic Orchard. If your opponent can tap for a certain color of mana, this can do the same. Snow-covered island. It's just your basic island, except it's covered in snow. And this card I'm hesitant on just ditching. Dromar's Cavern. It'll slow you down, not on the turn it comes into play, but it'll slow you down for the rest of the game. You have to bounce one of your own lands, and it only taps for 1 mana at a time, not 2. But it gives you 3 colors, which is all you're going to need in this deck. Pochika Bog comes in tapped, it only taps for 1 color, but it can exile every card in someone's graveyard, thus ruining their graveyard-based strategies if they have. Command Tower. The EDH staple. Tap for 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, which is pretty much the only colors of mana you'll ever need are the ones that your commander has, since you can't run any cards that don't share a color with the commander. Or, actually, they share a color. No. You can't run any cards that are colors that the commander isn't. Even if it would be activated abilities of the color, still can't run it. Plains. Drowned Catacomb. Handy land, but not so much, where there's less basics, considering trying to get Tainted Pact to work. Another foreign card. This one's in French. Yeah, we had a German card, now it's a French card. The Vivid Creek, or as it says here, the Ruisseau Éclatant. As it's pretty much the same sort of rainbow land deal with Vivid Meadow, but it taps for blue instead of white by default. Vault of the Archangel! Yep. Taps for colorless, doesn't come in tapped, but that Death Touch lifelink ability is pretty handy, though it costs 4 to use each turn. Dimir Guildgate, same deal as the others, but it's blue and black. Island, no need to speak here. Vivid Marsh, same deal as the Vivid Creek and the Vivid Meadow, but it taps for black by default. Caves of Koilos, same deal as the Adarkar Waste, but it's white and black. Plains. Snow-covered swamp. See the Synod. Similar to an island, but it's an artifact land and it's not basic. Salt Marsh comes into play tapped, and it taps for blue or black. Same deal as Dimir Guildgate, though it's uncommon and it doesn't have the gate subtype. Vault of Whispers. Artifact land just like See the Synod. Orzhov Basilica and Dimir Aqueduct. The 2 other bounce lands. Just like the Azorius Chancery, though they're tapping for a different pair of colors. Orzhov Basilica being white-black and the Dimir Aqueduct being blue-black. Juara Refuge. Same deal as Salt Marsh and Dimir Guildgate, but you get 1 life when it comes into play. Terramorphic Expanse is a functional reprint of Evolving Wilds. Underground River. Same deal as Caves of Koilos and Adarkar Waste, but you get blue and black off it. Glacial Fortress. The white-blue version of Drowned Catacomb. Snow-covered plains and swamp. And that's it. So I'm going to test this deck out tomorrow. I hope I didn't say dick. I'm going to test this out tomorrow and just see what happens. So yeah, that's it.